And a warm welcome back to the shop. It is a cold, snowy 2025, and I'm glad to be in my shop because it's way more comfortable in here. But I do love the snow, but I do love my projects. So today we are back in the shop with the P-26 Peashooter, and I've made some pretty great progress, and let me show you around a little bit. So the first thing I want to get completely out of the way is that there are no more parts in the box to assemble and put on this airplane. Everything else is going to be aftermarket, and so it's just worth going through some of the tips and tricks, maybe pitfalls of putting the rest of the airplane together. There's really no mystery about the cowl and mounting the cowl. Same with the motor. Really, if the motor box, I should say, that comes with some nice hardware that I did use to mount the motor box, as well as the motor. I did have to get a couple of washers and lock washers to make sure that my motor stayed secure. Obviously, you're going to do this with your specific motor, whether the motor is forward or back based on the length. All right. The one little hiccup here with the motor mounting is that it says 16 centimeters. And the way that the picture is depicted, it's from this piece. It's actually not. It's from the firewall, which is recessed back a good way. 16 centimeters would be like way out here. And the prop arc sticking out that far would be quite unacceptable. So one thing to note there. And then moving on back, we've got the the windscreen, which is secured only by screws. After visiting the museum, I decided to do some pretty scale screw locations and numbers. That way we have that little detail that's fun. You'll notice that on the tail end, I've got everything fully assembled. I went ahead and did some mechanical settings for the control throws, both on the ailerons as well as the tail control surfaces, both rudder and elevators. Each elevator is controlled by its own servo, so pretty straightforward to set there. Now, epoxying everything on is very straightforward. There's really no mystery there. I will say to you, definitely dry fit everything as much as you can. Dry fit it. There were a couple of interference issues with the hinging. Once I had dry fit stuff, it revealed itself, like what I needed to trim or sand a little bit, just so that everything was not bound at all. So everything operated nice and smooth. There was no sticking of any of the control surfaces, etc. Pretty straightforward stuff. Nothing too terribly complicated there. I do want to talk about the shroud for the tail gear. That was a little bit complicated too. So under here, there's a plastic covering. You have to trim the edges away to get this trimmed properly, as well as a cutout for the hole for the tail gear. What's worth noting, though, in particular, is that there is a clear coat over top of this that came off with just masking tape. And once it started to come, it was sort of like, well, I have to take all of it off because it was so unsightly. So once again, like, it's painted and there's a clear, but it's not prepped well. So keep that in mind. Since I'm going to give the whole airplane a dull coat overlay anyway, it's not a huge deal for me. But if you want to leave your airplane glossy, by all means, proceed with caution in that area. All right, moving on to other stuff. Now, I know that the YouTube algorithm is the beast in the room, and I know that the vast majority of people who are following along this project did not watch that video because it just didn't do well. YouTube algorithms prefer you to stick with a very specific format of each video that you put out. So if you deviate from that, like leave my shop and go to a museum, it doesn't like me. So I learned things from that trip that I wanted to apply to this particular model. Um, and one of those things is the scheme, the colors, the numberings, etc. So let me just flip the camera around and show you what I did. So the thing that is most notable that is different is that the big white 13 is no longer there on the side of the fuselage. I decided that I did not want that. I didn't like that look. The book reference that I found online is a coloring. It's an artist coloring. It is not an actual photo reference. And frankly, I didn't care for it anyway. um, the, the look of the museum example is far more interesting in my opinion. So what I did is I took out my stash of monocoat and I put a black 13 on the tail, and I put a yellow 13 on the spine, and then these were not just airplane numbers, they also had squadron numbers as well, and talked a little bit about that. So I did a yellow 34 on the belly, just like the museum. And yeah, it's all monocoat, old monocoat, not the new Aura cover, whatever stuff that you get, Econo coat, whatever. It's the original high quality monocoat because it does work the best. Now, Joshua, why would you do these iron-on coverings when you could just do vinyl? Well, vinyl's a little thicker, okay? And like I said, I'm gonna go and do a clear coat over top of this. And in order to do that clear coat, I want it to be about as smooth as I possibly can, essentially simulating a layer of paint, okay? So that's what I did. I wanted to do that. In addition to that, there's a US Army across the bottom of the wings. Just because that was there in the museum, I'm sure it's there. Well, it was there on the color plate, not included in my sticker package. Okay. So got to take things into my own hands and make things a little bit more accurate, a little bit more presentable. The other thing that I should mention is that the arrows with the Indian head on it, they're supposed to be symmetrical, and the stickers, well, Seagull, to their credit, they cheaped out. They just gave me 2 of the same sticker sheet, so they only had to do 1 sticker sheet. Okay, but that means that we have 1 incorrect sticker. Let me show you what that looks like. So on this side of the fuselage, the arrowhead points forward, which is the way it's supposed to look. Unfortunately, on the other side, it does not look that way. It points rearward because they couldn't do a mirror image. Now, I probably could have done something with calligraphics to get that right, but for this example, it's just between you and me, guys. We know that that's incorrect. There's not a whole lot we can do about it, but moving forward, it is what it is. So what have I been doing in the background? Well, little things like this. All right, little things like this. So I have been working on getting 3D printed parts finished. And the reason I'm doing that is because I don't like what came with the model, and I can do better without much effort. So my 3D printer's been running, and we're gonna get a nice dummy engine put on this plane. Now, in addition to the dummy engine, we're gonna do a nicer pilot, because remember that cartoon guy that's not period correct at all? Yeah. That is going to get redone. In addition to that, I'm going to try to put together an instrument panel for this kid. The original instrument panel was a sticker. It was a vinyl sticker, and it was kind of peeling off, and so I just ripped it all out. And it was like an instrument panel for like an aerobatic airplane. The reason I know that is because it had like a sequence on it, like a sequence sheet. Wrong dash, absolutely wrong dash. So I'm going to try to do something 3D printed, that should be pretty easy to put together in Fusion and just have it 3D printed, and then I can do some gauges or whatever. In the meantime, I'm going to take a little break from this plane because I've been doing a bunch of work on it. I've got some other things that I want to get some progress on, and not to mention, like, it's on the bench now, but it needs to come off the bench. It just kind of consumes the whole area of my shop. So I can't really work on other stuff while it's here. So it needs to go to the side, and in the meantime, I will be working on putting together a hardware package for the lines, for the flying wires, and the landing wires. All of that has yet to be done. Lots and lots of work will go into that. I will do a completely separate episode on that and outline what I'm doing there because, like I said, lots of hardware, lots of different things involved, silver soldering, etc. So it's involved process, and since I've made such huge progress here, that can wait for a little while. Ceph isn't for another 4 months. So until next time, guys, I appreciate you stopping by the shop. I know I've been a bit of a talking head, but that's the way these videos kind of work. Not really reinventing, like I said, anything here, but I'm excited for the progress that is here. So head on over to dubro.com. It's a new year. Get yourself some new goodies. Use code Josh10 at checkout. And until next time, keep working on your flying works of art.